Welcome back, everyone. Have a little additional update for you. This is a GP7 project I have. So my wife was wonderful and bought me Mike Zolich's book on the Buffalo, Rochester, and Pittsburgh Railroad, Volume 5. And as I'm modeling the BR&P during the Chessie System era, I have a little bit of a dilemma. And so what you're looking at is a probably 1980s vintage Athearn Blue Box GP7. And it is clearly in the Empire Builder scheme, which did not exist probably at the time I was modeling, which is 1974. So I also noticed that since I'm modeling 1974, which is only a year or so after Chessie System was formed, that I probably have way too much Chessie paint in my GP35s, 30s, and others that probably isn't ideal. So probably more likely most of it is in this scheme, in this Baldwin switcher scheme, the blue and white scheme. I have an Alco S4 that's in primer yet, which will ultimately share a similar paint scheme. So what my plan is, or what I've been started to do, is work on modifying a sister unit to this paint scheme in a more realistic fashion. But so this is a blue box stock motor. I've kind of tweaked it a little bit to get it to run pretty well, and it's got a TCS wow sound decoder in it with a 567 roots blown in it. So here's what it does, obviously pushing backwards up a hill, but and that's where my scenery or backdrop stops for the time being, so we'll stop there, but you get a sense of it. So even with the blue box motor in it, I've been able to get a bunch of my diesels to run really smoothly, and I'm very satisfied with it. And TCS is the only decoders I use, for at least for sound at this point. I have a couple these switchers over here that I showed you before have no sound because so far I've been too chicken to try and squeeze sound into such a small shell. But so I've got these older locos I've been using. I have some newer Pro 2000s that are, in the Chessie paint, and I haven't kind of tinkered with them too much other than just adding a decoder and sound. So I've kind of been trying my hand at airbrushing and doing some other things on the cheaper, stuff I had from when I was younger. So I've got this GP7, and I'll kind of work my way back around through scenery still under construction into Riker Yard in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and kind of try and be as slow as I can because I know I get seasick watching people pan too fast, so I apologize if I'm not doing a good job. But I also have an iPhone 5, I think, so it's probably not the greatest video. But so what I've started to do is work on what was a dummy unit, and I will add power to it, is looking at some photos of actually this unit, 5889. I have no clue, probably never served anywhere close to the Chessie System Pennsylvania division in western Pennsylvania, but you can only do so much research. But this was exactly the same as the unit you just saw. It was in the Empire Builder scheme. I didn't even strip the paint off of it. I figured, if any of it shows through, maybe they got quick and were just painting over it and didn't strip it themselves. But it seems to have covered pretty well. But so what I did is obviously the flow coil paints are no longer or have been discontinued. I used to have some when I was a kid. I have no clue what happened to. I used to have the proper blue for Chessie and B&O, but the some other paints I was able to get, like the Blue Angel blue with a little bit of black. It gets really close. So I did that, painted the whole thing up with the yellow, worked in a little bit of white, did some fading, did some rusting, and some just general grime. Obviously, it still needs the handrails on it, and like I said, it's still a dummy unit at this point, but it will get probably a stock Athearn open frame motor. I actually have a GP35 that has an open frame motor. I might put a Mashima can motor in that and then move that motor into this one. But this is certainly a little bit closer to what the locomotives and power was likely to be on the Buffalo, Rochester, and Pittsburgh portion of the Chessie system in 1974. So just a work in progress, but still learning with the airbrush. And like I said, still got railings to go. I apparently lost the air tanks that go under here, so I'll probably cast some from the other air tanks I have on the other GP7 and out of using some silicone molds with some resin kit to be able to pour those. So just a work in progress, and can't wait to see this guy. And once I'm done with this one, I'll probably paint the other one the same way or similar. I think I'm going to do 5817 or some other similar number. I was trying to look for GP7s that actually had dynamic brakes. None of the B&O ones did. Only C&O apparently had dynamic brakes, and so while I don't feel like cutting those off, I'm just going to try and find numbers that worked. And BR&P was a little bit, had some hills in it, so I think it made sense to at least have some dynamic brake units on there. So that's all I have for now, but yeah, like I said, way too many. I can kind of scan over this way. This will be ultimately the Riker Yards engine service facility. And yeah, here I got a GP35 in Chessie paint, but here's a GP35 that was a dummy. I converted the power in the blue and yellow scheme. This is the one I might put a Mashima can motor in and take the skewed open frame Athearn motor and put this in the GP7. But I also have an SD40-2 that I had when I was younger, and I haven't seen any evidence of that ever being anywhere close to the Western Pennsylvania division, so that might just be a rogue SD40-2 that found its way onto this part of the system. But I also happen to, when you're dealing with the Chessie system in the 70s, you're dealing with almost exclusively EMD products. So the good news is I've got interchange service with both the Penn Central and Erie Lackawanna in 1974. So happy to have a Alco C425, and can't wait to put some sound and decoder in that as well. So more to follow, but thanks.